Welcome for my tourism Pathshala. It will transform your dream into reality. Good morning. Today we are going to learn the Carl Rogers theory of personality. Carl Rogers was born on January 8, 1902, Oak Park, Illinois. Now, he subsequently focused on clinical and educational psychology, writing his doctoral dissertation on personality adjustment in children. His famous book has been published in 1942. The book is based on counseling and psychotherapy. This counseling and psychotherapy is the central conception of this book, organizing element of human personality, concept of self and organizing element of human personality. The incipient concept of Rogers' therapeutic approach appeared in his 1942 book Counseling and Psychotherapy. Within the next few years, he developed his concept of the self as an organizing element in human personality, the principle of the non-directive or client-centered style of therapy. So, his book is famous, developed the concept of self, organizing element of human personality. And the style of the therapy is based on non-directive or client-centered. Next, Rogers' theory. Rogers' theory is based on phenomenological. Rogers' theory is based on phenomenological, emphasis on inner life or self-theory or person-centered theory. The central conception of Rogers' theory is based on phenomenological, number one. Phenomenological means the emphasis on inner life or self-theory or person-centered theory. Carl Rogers was not only of the founder of humanistic approach, but he also arguably the most influential therapist in the 20th century. Rogers' theory is basically phenomenological in that it placed a strong emphasis on the experiences of the persons, their feelings, their values, and all that is summed up by the experience of inner life. So, according to Carl Rogers, inner life means the experience of the persons, their feelings, their values, and all that is summed up by the experiences in inner life. And his theory, he also known as a self theory. This theory is also known as a self theory. The other name of his theory is a person-centered theory. Now, the two important fundamental ideas of his theory. Number one, individual perceived their own being. Number two, condition for healthy growth. The Rogers theory based on two fundamental ideas. Number one, individual perceived their own being. Number two, condition for healthy growth. The first, Rogers talk about the healthy development in terms of how individuals perceive their own being. Healthy individuals will tend to see the congruence between their sense of who they are, that is considered as a self, and who they feel they should be, that is called the ideal of self. The congruence means the harmony, compatibility, and self and ideal self. The congruence, the healthy individual will tend to see the congruence between or confluence between congruence or confluence, the harmony, compatibility between their sense of who they are as their real self and who they feel they should be, that is called the ideal self. While no one tends to experience the perfect congruence, according to Rogers, no one tends to experience perfect congruence at all times. the relative degree of congruence is the indicator of health. The second fundamental approach of Rogers theory is the Rogers concept, the condition for healthy growth, and the role of therapist in fostering healthy growth. Through process Rogers called person-centered therapy, the therapist seeks to provide empathy, openness, unconditional positive rigor. Rogers called his technique non-directive therapy. Or based on the concept, the therapist is simply a mirror who reflects the individual thoughts and feelings. So what we have got through this discussion, we have got that Rogers theory is based on phenomenological, which emphasis on inner life or self theory or person-centered theory. Second, we understand the two fundamental consideration of ideas of Rogers theory. Number one, individual perceived their own being and condition for healthy growth. And we have got two important terms, that's called the congruence between their sense of who they are, that is the real self, and who they feel they should be, the ideal self. Now we are going to study the Rogers theory can be explained under the following three headings. Number one, enduring aspect of personality. Number two, self-actualization. Number three, development of self. Number one, enduring aspect of personality. Rogers' theory of personality evolved out of his work as a clinical psychologist and developed as an offshoot of his theory of client-centered, or later called the person-centered therapy. So, according to enduring aspect of personality, fundamental importance of his theory, to this theory, this can be divided: the organism, number one, the organism, number two, the self. Next important point, the organism. What do you mean by organism? Or according to Rogers, the organism is the locus of all experiences, including everything potentiality available to awareness at any given point. The totality of experience constitutes the phenomenal field. Rogers' approach to the study of persons phenomenological and ideographic. His view of human behavior is that it is exquisitely rational. Exquisite means extremely beautiful or intensely fair. According to Rogers, the core of man's nature is essentially positive. He is a trustworthy organism. So organism means including everything potentially available to awareness at any given point. Now, we understand the concept of phenomenal field, or it is considered as a subjective field. It provides consciousness and unconsciousness experience. Rogers emphasized that individual way of behavior depend upon the phenomenal field, it is called the subjective reality, not upon the stimulating condition, that is the external reality. Stimulation is come from outside, that is called the external. The phenomenal field at any given moment is made up of a conscious or unconscious experience. So what we have understand from this, in most of the cases the person accepts his or her experience as a true representation of reality. Most of the cases he or she emphasizes his experience is a true representation of the reality, while in reality they may not be the true representation. It is not a perfect understanding or observation. Always their always the reality, always their experience is the true. So what we have learned from this conception, the concept of organism and concept of organism and understanding of phenomenal field is based on subjective field and provide the consciousness and unconsciousness experience. This is a main fundamental conception of the organism. Organism, I repeat again, organism means that including everything potentially available to awareness at an given moment, and totality of experience constitute the phenomenal field. Next, the self. Self can be divided, concept of self or perception of self can be divided into two parts, real self and ideal self. Roger developed one of the most systematic model of self in relation to the personality functioning. The self or self concept is one of the central concept in his history, and the theory is often referred to as the self theory of personality. Roger defines self as the organized, consistent, conceptual gestalt composed of the perception of characteristics of the I or me. The self as an organized, consistent and conceptual perception that is based on I or me. The perception of the relationship I or me to various aspects of life, together the values attached to those perception. So concept of self and perception he has given, and he also mentioned the subsystem of the self, that is called real self and ideal self. What do you mean by self? The central conception of the self is the organized, consistent and conceptual perception of the characteristics I or me. In short, it is one of the picture him or her. Rogers further distinguishes two aspects of subsystem of self, that is called real self and ideal self. Real self means the real self which is created and developed through the actualizing tendency. It is the self that one can become. An ideal self means, according to Rogers, is suggesting something not real, something that is always out of reach, the standard we cannot meet. The real self is that if all goes well, you will become, while the ideal self is that the person would like to be. So he has given outstanding conception based on self, real self and ideal self. Rogers believed that when all aspects of personal life, surroundings and thought are in harmony, then the ideal state of congruence is reached. Next important aspect of Roger theory is congruity and incongruity. First of all, you have to understand the meaning of congruence. Congruence means agreement, harmony or compatibility or confluence. So he gave the ideas of congruent situation when the symbolized experience that constitute the self faithfully mirror the experience of the organism. The self and organism are said to be congruent. That is, the individual is believed to be adjusted, nature and fully functioning. Otherwise, there would be incongruence. So, what do you mean by congruence? The concept faithfully mirror the experience of the organism, and self and organism are said to be congruent. According to Rogers, theory, important of the organism means we have got the organism conception according to Carl Rogers. Self, the focus point about the experience of the self, which is related with the ideal self and real self. Now nature of incongruent individual. Now we given some nature and characteristics of incongruent behavior. Rogers suggests that incongruent individual who is always on the defensive and cannot be open to all experiences is not functioning ideally and may even be malfunctioning. According to Rogers, nature of incongruent behavior is a defensive mentality, work hard maintaining and protecting their self-concept. Their defensive mechanism based on distortion and denial. Distortion occurs when individual perceives a threat to their self-concept. This defensive behavior reduces the consciousness of the threat but not the threat itself. If the incongruence is immoderate, this process may lead the individual to state that would typically be described as a neurotic. So congruity and incongruity is another important features of the self theory. Psychological maladjustment exists when the organism denies awareness of significant sensory and visual experiences which consequently are not symbolized and organized into the gestures of cell structure. Psychological maladjustment is another important aspect of congruity and incongruity features. And finally, self-actualization. According to Rogers, all the single motive is there the impulse human being into action. That motive can be described as the actualizing tendency. The actualizing tendency can be suppressed but can never be destroyed without the destruction of the organism. The concept of the actualizing tendency is the only motive force in the theory. It encompasses all motivation, tension, need, drive reduction, creative as well as pleasure-seeking tendency. Therefore, as already stated, the single motivating force is the self-actualization drive, and single goal of life is to become self-actualized. Next theory of Rogers is the next part, the development of self. Rogers, unlike Freud, Sullivan, Erikson, did not try to propose a stage theory of personality development. Rogers' perception of personality development is Rogers did not explain the personality development in step or stages. Rather, he emphasized the importance of congruence between the self of the person and his experience in the development of personality. The congruence is a very important part, or compatibility of the self between the self means real self and ideal self of the person, and his experience in the development of personality. Adjustment and psychological health have also been explained in terms of realistic self-concept, that is the congruent with self. Our self-concept is based on our own perception and it fits well with our experiences. So there is a basic difference, Rogers' perception of personality development and other psychologists, Freud, Sullivan, Erikson. The proposed stage theory. The others expert has given their opinion is based on the stage theory, but Rogers emphasizes the importance of congruence between self of the person and his or her experiences. So these are our Rogers theory. A certain critical appreciation of this theory has been given. The application of person-centered approach. The person-centered of self-theory approach being the unique approach to understanding the personality and human relationship. Found wide application in various domains such as psychotherapy, counseling, organization, other group of setting. Rogers Rogers' greatest contribution may lie in the encouraging of human and ethical treatment of person, approaching psychology of human science rather than natural science. But there is a certain limitation of Rogers' person-centered approach. This limitation or approach has been criticized on many grounds. The Rogers accepted client statement to be always true and reliable when self-report normally lack of credibility. All research is based on the client experience and their statement. Rogers has also been criticized for ignoring unconscious determinant of behavior which attach a psychoanalytic investigation over long period. And it is also criticized on the ground that the theory deals only with surface issues, does not explore deeper area. Deeper area means unconscious part of human mind. So these are the various aspects of Rogers' theory. So our Rogers' theory is based on the enduring aspect of personality, self-actualization and development of self. So from my previous video, we have learned the humanistic approach of Abraham Maslow, need hierarchy theory. Next, another theory is a self theory of Carl Rogers. In my first video, I have discussed the overall perspective of humanistic approach. So you keep touch with this channel and follow this discussion. You definitely get benefit and it will be very helpful to solve your to clear your ideas, conception and solve your exam problem. So thank you.